Welcome to Cloud on Air, live webinars from Google Cloud. We're hosting webinars every Tuesday. My name is Corey Peel, and I'm a customer engineer. We're joined by Sean Ma, product manager at Trifacta, and we're going to talk about wrangling your data with Cloud Dataprep. You can ask questions anytime on the platform, and we have Googlers on standby to answer them. So let's get started with our CE chat. So, Sean, one of the things we want to do today is to talk about a bit of an overview of Cloud Dataprep. And there's some really interesting applications and use cases. And I know you have a wonderful demo for us. We're looking forward to that. And then we'll talk about some benefits and next steps.
Right.
However, when we're looking at Trifacta, when people think about Dataprep and Google, can you talk a little bit more about who is Trifacta?
Sure.
Yeah.
Trifacta is a company that was started in 2012. And our founders are doing research at Stanford and Berkeley, and their goal was to enable users for dramatic productivity and radical creativity with their data.
Excellent.
I've been with Trifacta for the last 4 years, and specifically working on the Cloud Dataprep product for the last 2 years.
Oh, great. And so since your company has been around for over 6 years, why do you guys decide to build a product in this space collaborating with Google? Yeah.
Sure. So data today, as you know, there's a lot of it, and it's messy and diverse. And too often, the key pieces of information that you need are hidden inside patterns of data that are hard to get to because you can't understand what you have, and you don't actually have an easy way to process it and transform it. So our goal is to make sure that people who use data as their livelihood, they can fix the data and make it available to whatever they need. And at Trifacta, we were really focused on answering those questions for users and making sure that they're successful with their jobs.
Oh, that's great. So it sounds like we're really able to use this to help people get insight into a lot of data to solve problems of all types, including besides commercial, but public service, social problems. That's great.
Yep. Yeah. So why don't I start off with a overview of the Cloud Dataprep product, just kind of set the stage for folks who are new to it. Dataprep has been around since September in beta mode. It's been around for a couple of months now, but just to start things going. So used to ask the question like, why did we start a company that's focused on data prep?
Right.
And a big reason why is some of these statistics that I'm showing here, right? We're seeing majority of the time, data scientists view data preparation as the least enjoyable part of the work, but it's absolutely necessary to get it done. On the flip side, it's not just data scientists who see this, but oftentimes analysts also spend a ton of the time on data preparation. Yeah. And once again, it's something that they don't want to necessarily work on because it's actually taking away time from answering those key questions to get their job done. So when we talk to organizations about, hey, what are some of the challenges with understanding your data and turning that data into insight, there are two big things that come up. The first one is setting up and managing an infrastructure that allows you to host a large amount of data of diverse types and then process a huge amount of it. The second part is often then, after you have that, not having the tools and skill set necessary to prepare that data so you actually can do the downstream analysis. So the key thing here is through the combination of Google Cloud Platform and its infrastructure with ability to immediately handle pretty much infinite scale, and then leveraging a purpose-built tool like Trifacta for data preparation, we want to get data into the hands of more users and let them be as efficient as possible in processing their data. And that leads to data preparation as a service. That's what Cloud Dataprep is, right? It allows you to visually explore data, clean it, structure it, whether structure unstructured data or combine and modify structured data with the whole goal of making sure there's zero infrastructure, no need to deploy and manage an environment, and of course, not needing to know how to code.
Great.
So where does this fit inside the data lifecycle? So as you can see here, this is a typical lifecycle for anyone who works with data. You take raw data up front, and then you're going through a kind of a discovery mode, understanding what's inside your data, structuring that, cleansing it, followed by enriching it, combining with other data sources, validating it to make sure it meets what you need. And this is a very iterative loop. This is something that you might do multiple times and go forward from there. Before you decide that this is you've prepared the data to what you need, you automate that so you can do it repeatedly, for downstream analytics or some sort of machine learning or modeling. Now, the goal with Dataprep is to make this process here as efficient as possible and reduce the time you spend on it. So for example, instead of it normally taking months or weeks to solve this problem and go through all the different steps, we really want to make it days and hours. So that's one part of the efficiency. The other part is actually to enable different types of users to actually access the data. So this is not just for data scientists or data engineers, but also analysts, people who are actually using the end results, these analytics. We want them to have access to tools that can prepare data as well.
Great. So can you talk a little bit about the governance process? Because I think some of us, when we're dealing with these types of problems, we end up on these steering committees and they have a lot of activities, a lot of roles in terms of who needs to do what and what part of the process. And as you mentioned, typically that is a really long process. Right. So here it looks like you have a tool and it's available for users in various roles within this life cycle. So maybe just talk a little bit about governance process.
So since this is a single tool that we'll show you in a moment, anyone will be able to see the exact same set of transformations. So regardless of what role you are, let's say you're in the governance role and I'm the analyst that's doing the transformations, we'll both be able to see the exact same logic that I've been using and you'll be able to review step by step of how I got to that. Excellent. And because it's a single tool, we won't be like passing emails back and forth. We'll just literally be able to work off of the same piece of information.
That sounds great. I'm sure auditors will love that traceability as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's move on to some applications and use cases that we've seen Dataprep for. At a high level, some of the top applications that we've seen here are data onboarding. This is a scenario where we see analysts dealing with third-party data, typically data coming from external vendors or human-generated data, where there's a lot of information on data, but you need to standardize it and you need to restructure the data in order to meet internal standards so that it can be fed into built-in pipelines. You can fill it into reports down the stream. The next one is data science and machine learning, right? So Dataprep is not just a challenge for analysts, it's also for data scientists, because what's the point of training a model on a particular feature if the quality of the data is poor? That can lead to very skewed results. Yeah. So making sure that you've got the right data, you isolate the right features, feeding that into the model is important. The last one is actually the most common one we've heard, which is big data analytics, right? And the challenge with big data analytics is that now, as more and more data is available of different formats, it's not just about processing traditional or relational data. It's actually combining that data with social media, combining that data with file data, right, clickstream data, so you can get a very holistic view of what's going on in your environment and analyze data based on that.
Great. Yeah, so when you're looking at this, you have a lot of different options. You support a lot of different use cases. And in particular, when we're thinking about, like you mentioned, machine learning. So let's talk a little bit about how companies are leveraging Dataprep for machine learning models and what you need to do before you start your feature engineering.
Yeah, so I can give an example of a healthcare company. So they actually started with analytics. So their challenge was, so this is a large healthcare provider. They have dozens of hospitals, hundreds of outpatient facilities throughout the United States. And their challenge was understanding the resources, both people, medicines, machines, resources across all these locations, understanding what's there and how the inventory was stocked across that. So the first challenge was just gathering all this information from the various systems, traditional systems, user-generated information, gathering in a single location just to get a good picture of what's going on. And they were able to do that through big data analytics, using big data analytics, because they could see holistically all the data sets combined and blended together.
Great.
But once they had that, what was interesting about it was that same data was then useful for actually feeding into a machine learning model. In this case, it was a flu predictor model. So what they could do was they could actually use the information from where inventory was, where it was being used up, to help feed into a model and predict where there was most likely going to be a flu outbreak, because they saw inventories dip, they saw patterns coming in. So that's actually a case where big data analytics eventually fed into a machine learning use case, right, and they were able to deploy that and for the benefit of us all. That's
great.
Okay, so these are some of the use cases. So these are some of the applications. Let's talk about some of the tasks and users that we've seen with Dataprep. I mentioned this before, but it's a fairly wide range of users that we've seen with Cloud Data Prep, from data scientists, pretty much anyone who uses data, whether they're analysts or engineers. And as you can see here, there are a set of tasks that are common across them. So those include formatting and restructuring, getting data into a format that you will understand, so you can do things with it. Then profiling that data to get a sense of the shape of the data itself, right? So you can understand the characteristics, how clean it is, what are some of the potential anomalies inside that data. And then universally, what we've seen is that no matter what, the data is dirty and it needs to be cleansed. So
Right.
standardizing it, fixing out the common issues. So that's kind of like the common tasks that we've seen across all. Then we've seen data scientists in particular, but to some degree data engineers, focusing on pattern identification and distribution models, as well as I mentioned, training ML models for predictions and usage down the road. So that's kind of where we've seen a lot of data scientists, data engineers. Now, what's interesting is that after you've got the data in the format that you want, everyone wants to do some sort of ad hoc analysis. Now you can if you understand the data better, you can explore it better, you can find new insights inside of that. And what you do, you typically want to enrich the data, combine it with other data sources, and with the end goal for analysts in particular to visualize it in some sort of dashboarding UI or BI capability.
Okay, so how does data preparation differ from ETL? Because some of these common themes around enrichment and cleansing are often a part of that type of process as well.
Yeah, it's a great question, something that we get quite often. So it's not black and white. In fact, oftentimes these two concepts are complementary to each other, right? Typically, ETL is focusing on well-defined structured data, while data prep is handling unstructured, complex data that's coming in from non-relational sources. So that's one area. But as part of that, you also see a difference in the style in which the tools behave. So data prep solutions typically combine visualization with machine learning, all put together into an interactive user interface so that it can access multiple users, while ETL is focusing on a metadata-driven mapping that connects kind of a flow through the data. So these two are complementary, but they're really targeting different types of users. And then I'd say one key difference that you might choose is that the time to insight. In particular, if you're dealing with ad hoc data and or data sources that are changing quite a bit, you may want to use data prep because it has a little bit more flexibility for these changes and go forward from there.
Oh, great. Well, I'd love to see how this works in action.
Yeah, well, so I've got a quick demo to go through. So hopefully highlighting some of the capabilities of data prep. Before I start, I'm actually going to go ahead and just give some context on this demonstration, and then I'll jump into the product itself. So this demo, as you can see here, I've got actually two data sets on the left-hand side here. One is a clickstream file. So you can see it's kind of it's got URL information and dates and click behavior. I want to take this clickstream data and combine it with sales order data from my website. This web order data is stored in BigQuery. So I want to combine that with the goal of generating a nice dashboard to understand, where things have been, where consumers have been purchasing from, as well as what are the most often clicked items and do they lead to orders. So things I want to pull out of that is a correlation between clicks and orders. I want to extract out products that have been purchased and get a sense of the quantity for that. And of course, during this whole process, I'll be cleansing the data, preparing it for this downstream dashboarding view. Okay, so let's switch off and actually get into the product itself. So so just starting from the beginning, how much you launched Cloud Data Prep? Well, in the Cloud Console, you can go to the menu here. You can go down to the Big Data section, and you'll see Data Prep. Right, so clicking on that, that'll launch Data Prep from the console. I'm going to quickly full screen this.
And I like to have my big data items pinned as well. So those of you using the console might have it at the top after you start playing around with it. Yeah.
Definitely. So once you enter your Cloud Data Prep, you'll see this this workspace where you're kind of showing all the flows, basically organizations of analysis that you're working on. And for this particular demonstration, I'm going to create a new one. So I'm creating a new flow. I'm going to call it click to order analysis. And go ahead and create that. And I mentioned that my data sets were in Google Cloud Storage and BigQuery as files and a table. So I'm actually going to import that live. As you can see here, this is inside Dataprep. You can browse the Google Cloud Storage. So I'm actually browsing the buckets that are default in my project. Inside of this, take a look at some of the folders. I see website clickstream data. I see, okay, clickstream across multiple years. I look inside, just take a quick look inside. Is this the data that I'm looking for? Yep, this looks kind of what the data I'm looking for. So what I want to do is I actually want to take, for this demonstration, I'll just take fiscal year 2010 as my starting point for my clickstream data. So I've added that here.
Oh, whole folder.
Yeah, I've added that whole folder as my clickstream data source. And then I need to go take a look at BigQuery. So now again, I'm browsing the BigQuery data sets available inside my project. I'm looking inside this one, do a quick scan. Nope, this is not what I'm looking for. So let me go back. Well, I bet it's under here. Okay, so taking a look at this, I see customer sales master. It's got 500 million rows there. And then I've got daily customer sales. For this demonstration, I'll probably take the daily customer sales just to for a quick demonstration. So daily customers, I'll just do customer sales. Okay, so as you can see here, I've got the two data sets. I do want to mention that if I didn't have my data sets in Google Cloud Storage or BigQuery, I can actually upload data, whether it's CSV, JSON, or Excel files. So you can also upload it and make it a data set. But let's go ahead with the two data sets I have here. So I'll go ahead and import that. So now what you'll see is representations of those data sets in Cloud Dataprep. Just so we're clear, these are read-only representations, so I'm not actually modifying those data. And I'm going to start with the clickstream data, and I'm going to start preparing it. So in order to do that, I'm going to go in, and I want to take a look at it within the Dataprep UI. So if you recall, when we first looked at the raw data, it was kind of jumbled. It was hard to understand. What Dataprep does out of the box is it actually scans the data, tries to understand it best, and will break it up into easy-to-read rows and columns where possible. And as part of that rows and columns, it'll do things like identify the column names. So this is probably in the file itself, as well as infer data types. So in this case, it's inferring that this is a date time. If you keep going, things URL. There are various data types that Dataprep can infer. So it will automatically apply them without you having to do anything. The next thing you might notice at the top is what's known as a quality bar. So that's this item up here. It kind of gives you how many items inside this particular column match the data type that's up here. And looking at event time, I can see while there's a lot of matches up here, I see actually quite a bit of mismatch values. And knowing data quality is usually a big problem for any analytics. I actually want to understand more. So I'm going to go take a look at the column details. So I'll click column details. And now I can see a lot more information about the data. So this was daytime data. I can see it distributed over time. I can see it broken up into months and weekdays. But the part that I'm interested in is the mismatch values. And looking at this, I can clearly see the most common mismatch value is error timeout. Well, this is not going to be particularly useful for us, so what I want to do is I want to get rid of it. And the way I do that is actually interacting with this histogram here. So I'm actually going to click on this histogram. And what Dataprep will do is it will actually, based on that click, suggest transformations that I might want to apply to this. In this case, it's suggesting I might want to keep those. That's not the case, but my second suggestion is actually to delete the rows. So what's happening under the covers? Dataprep has a machine learning model that's actually looking at what you've been clicking on and looking at some past behavior for an aggregate across many users and suggesting transformations. In this case, I'm going to delete this data here. So let me go ahead and add that. And you'll immediately notice that my histograms have been updated with the fact that those rows of data have been deleted. Now, still looking at this, I still see mismatch values, so there's still a problem. I still see more issues here. It seems to be something wrong with the date, but I don't quite understand it. So I'm actually going to take a look at the patterns view of this column and take a look at what's inside of that. Now looking here, Dataprep has scanned that column and identified there are 3 patterns for this date time field. I see year, month, date, 24 hours, minutes, and seconds. The next one is year, month, date, but 12-hour, minutes, seconds. And then I see these ones here, which are the month abbreviation, which definitely is going to cause an issue. So knowing that I'm eventually going to do analytics with this, most systems don't like having different date formats. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to click on the format that I want, which is this one here. And once again, Dataprep will suggest various transformations. And the one I'm most interested in is actually converting the other patterns into a standard one here. And Dataprep is showing me a preview. In the blue was what the original data looks like. In the yellow is actually what it's suggesting the transformation to. So I can see that November will be converted into a number and 12-hour time format changing to 24-hour time format. So that looks like what I got, what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that and go ahead and add it. Great, so now I don't have any more issues. My data is all one pattern. Let's go back and take a look at the grid view itself. And again, this is all, I just want to remind, I'm not actually changing the source data at this point. All this is happening within my browser, so it's just happening in this view here. So this one looks, the event time looks good. I'm going to keep going. Looking at these quick histograms across, I can see distribution of data. I see something weird going on with user ID. I would expect this to be, a much better distribution. There's clearly one user ID that's sticking out. It's actually happening out many more times than others. So I'm actually going to select that, and I'm actually going to view which rows this is affecting. So looking at that user ID, I can see it's all coming from the same URL. Oh, that's weird. The event time for this, these clicks are all happening at the same time. Okay, this could be a bot of some sort. So you know what? I don't think this is going to be useful for our analytics. So for this case, I'm actually going to go ahead and delete it. So I'm going to choose to delete those rows and add that in. And immediately Dataprep will show me the redistributed data. So I'm just looking around, and the URL looks a bit more even. Okay, the last part I know I needed to do was extract the product ID. I was interested to see when people click what product they were clicking through on. So let's take a look at the URL. Normally the product ID is part of that. And lo and behold, yep, you can see this. At the end of the URL, you see product ID and the number. And you can see that for different products going forward. So my next step is I want to extract this information out and use it use it in my dashboard. So how might I do that? Well, with Dataprep, you can just click and highlight the data that you're interested in. And that same machine learning model that's providing suggestions will actually take that data that I've selected and suggest a pattern that matches it. So in this case, it's a pattern and apply to all the rows. So and here you see a preview of the data that's extracting. This is looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and add that. And then one last step, I probably want to know which website this is coming from, but I don't need to know all this information, the page information. So I'm actually going to click on the URL, and I'm going to take a look at ability to extract the domain. So I'm actually going to choose to extract a domain. Yep, it's pulling out the domain information for this. That looks like what I'm looking for. Cool. So I'm going to add that to my data set as well. So now I've pulled out two key attributes, the domain and product ID. Overall, this is looking like pretty good. Great. So I think my clickstream data is at the state that I'm looking for. My next step is to combine this with the customer order data that's stored in the BigQuery table. So before I do that, I actually want to just take a moment to note everything I've been doing has been stored in what's known as a recipe. And these recipes contain individual transformation steps based on your user actions. So as you can see here, every single step that I've done has shown up here. And the nice part is that if I ever want to go back and kind of understand what's going on, how my transformations was performed, I can actually go back and click and see what the data looked at like before I applied that transformation. I can also edit a transformation. So if I made a mistake and I want to edit something, I can go ahead and do that. I don't want to do it in this case. I can just replay. This is really helpful in particular when you're doing data governance and other people want to understand what's going on. They can literally step through one by one on what you're operating on.
Oh yes, auditors will love this. Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and combine that previous data set. So I'm actually going to add a new step. I'm going to actually join data in. I'm going to look at what data sets I pulled in earlier. Customer sales was what I'm looking at. Let me just preview that just to make sure this is what I wanted. Taking a quick look, yep, sales order key, yeah, and customer key. Okay, this is looking at what I want. So let's go ahead and choose the join keys. So behind the scenes, Dataprep is actually analyzing the two data sets, and it's actually going to come back with a recommendation on how to best join the data. And lo and behold, it is suggesting that I combine the data based on user ID and customer ID. Once again, doing a quick scan, this looks like it makes sense. Great. So so these are two columns that's joined on. I actually want more columns inside of this, so I'm going to add all of them. I'm going to remove the customer key for this, and I probably don't need this information, but this is probably what I'm looking for here. Yep. So now I've selected the columns. Quick preview of what I want, and now I'm going to add this join to the recipe itself. So this join, like I said earlier, was going to be down in the browser. And when I scan through my new dataset view, I can see not only my original clickstream data, but now I can see all that joined in data with the sales order key, order date, customer state, customer zip code. Cool. So this is actually looking pretty good. I think I have all the information that I need. Let's see if there's any other things I pull out. Oh, I noticed something. What is this? Sales order lines. This is kind of interesting. It looks a little bit, actually looks kind of complicated. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's the.
Oh, it looks like there's some nested data inside my BigQuery table. Great. Looks like I'm gonna have to get that out. That's not gonna be fun. Well, let's see. Well, Dataprep has figured out that this is an array. So let me see. If I click on the column, let's see what it suggests. Oh, okay. It's actually suggesting that it might flatten the array into new rows, so convert each of these items into individual rows. So let's see what that looks like. I'm just going to select that. OK, now it's pulling out each item. Yeah, it's looking at each line item in the sales order and pulling that into individual row. OK, it duplicated the rest of the information. That's good. OK, so this is looking good. So I'm going to add this in. So it's flattened that out. And now, notice that the histogram has also changed. It's actually broken it down into the elements inside this object. So this is a sales order object. I can see the individual elements like product key, ship date, quantity. Well, the histogram is actually updated to show those same things. So now if I want to pull out just those pieces of information, I can click on product key here in the histogram, and it will extract that out. I'm also interested in quantity, so I'm actually going to add quantity to this. And go ahead and add it there. Great. So I'm going to add that quickly to this. OK, I got product key and quantity. All right, one last step, and then we'll going. So now I've got the data in the format that I wanted. I want to run this I want to run this and process a full result. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and run job. By default, Dataprep will generate a CSV file, but you can change this at any point. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. If I wanted to change it to a JSON file, I can. So I can generate that. But in addition to that, I actually want to publish this to BigQuery. So I'm actually going to go back into BigQuery. I'm going to go to this demo environment, and I'm going to create a new table. I want to call this clickstream data, but instead I actually want to call it click to order analysis. OK, great. I'm going to save the settings. So I've chosen to append this table after every run. So if I run this again and again, it'll just keep appending. So I save that setting, and then I'm going to click Run Job. So what's happening under the covers is that Dataprep is taking that recipe, converting that into a data flow job, and now that data flow job will be executed against the source data and generate a new target result. If you want to take a look at what that looks like, so I can go to More, and I can view the data flow job itself, just see where that's being kicked off. Yep, great. So that's looking good. OK, so this is going to take a little bit of time. So through the magic of demos, I'm going to go to a previously completed job. So I have a couple of jobs that I've completed here. I'm going to take a look at what the result looks like. Click on View Results. And there I get to see a whole view, detailed view, a profile view of all the data that was run, how many rows you generated across all the columns. OK, this is looking good. The last thing I want to do for the demo is then what I want to do is take this data set and actually go back. So go back to my click to order analysis. And what I want to do is then schedule this for repeated runs. I'm going to go ahead and add a schedule. This on a weekly basis, Sunday. Actually, I want to do it Monday at 9 a.m. Great. OK, so that's about it. I've got this scheduled. I can go program its destinations. I'm done with my demo.
That's excellent. And you did that in a matter of minutes, whereas some of us have had to deal with a lot of meetings and SQL scripts and cron jobs and a lot of other tools integrated just to get to that result. So this is a great demo, really impressive.
Thank you. So quick recap. So what did we just do? We ingested data from various data sources. We went that was prepared through Dataprep, and then Dataprep used Cloud Dataflow to generate the refined data, which is then loaded into BigQuery, and from there you can use that through Data Studio or Cloud ML. So I'm going to quickly recap, some of the key benefits and capabilities we just saw. You saw the first one, which is interactive data exploration. As you see patterns in the data, you can literally click on them, and clicking on them will generate predictive transformations. Those transformations will be based on what you've clicked on, the type of data, and the model underneath. The model underneath will suggest transformations that might apply. And then when you do any of these actions, you get immediate feedback as to what they might do. And then the key kind of benefits for this whole solution is that it's all fully managed. The entire solution is self-service. Anyone who has access to your cloud console can then access the data and explore it, and then they can generate a repeatable data preparation pattern. Okay, well, with that, I'm going to kind of wrap up and wrap up with the next steps. All I can say is that if you want to try this out, go to your console and you can launch Cloud Dataprep today. From there, you can enjoy a tutorial and start wrangling your own data.
Okay, great. So you see the URL to go to cloud.google.com/dataprep. So stay tuned for live Q&A. We will be back in less than a minute. Thanks. Welcome back. So Sean, we have a few questions from the audience, and I may throw in a few of my own as well. So what's next with Cloud Data Prep, and are there some new features you want to highlight?
Of course. So there's actually quite a lot to talk about what's coming next for Cloud Data Prep. If you stay tuned, there'll be some announcements coming out soon, but we're focusing a lot on providing new developer productivity enhancements, so allowing users to transform the data more efficiently with additional tools. We're also focusing a lot on team-based collaboration and sharing. So that's some things that we'll be announcing in a fairly short order. Okay. And of course, overall, we'll be enhancing some of the favorite features people like to use. In particular, with scheduled jobs, enhancing that. And soon you'll see a new revamp to the overall UI.
Oh, excellent. And so how many customers have adopted Dataprep so far, and is this supported globally?
Yeah, so actually, yes, Dataprep is supported globally. In fact, as part of this, we have almost 1,000 different organizations sign up for Dataprep around the world. At this point, they're literally running thousands of jobs a day. And we've seen a lot of interest out of Asia, out of Europe. I mean, pretty much everywhere you can think of, we've seen Dataprep users.
Okay, great. And so when you run a job, where does the data processing take place, and does Dataprep store data?
Sure. So as I mentioned when I went through the demo, when you click on Run Job, what's happening is that Dataprep is taking that recipe, the steps that are defined inside that recipe, translating that into a data flow job that you saw on the screen that went through execution. That data flow job reads data from your source data from your GCP project, transforms that data within your GCP project, and writes it back out into the same project. Okay. So actually, the data always stays within that project and doesn't leave it, and all the processing is done there. In terms of storage of Dataprep itself doesn't store any data, because what you're actually seeing, what we're doing is we're actually asking Dataflow to actually run the processing and generate the new data set.
Oh, excellent. So that way, if I need to keep all my data in Europe and I have my project set up to be only in Europe, same rules for cloud storage, then that's where it stays. Okay, great. Okay, and well, I know some people really like to know more about pricing when it comes to some of these tools. Do you want to talk a little bit about the pricing model?
Sure. It's actually very similar to Dataflow. Is based on the amount of processing resources that you take. So there's a flat charge based on the total hours that you're running a job for.
Okay. And when we talked about a couple of use cases, so we described how people can explore data, how you have data prepared for ML feature engineering, preparing for that. But also when it comes to data onboarding, there are also some other things people need to do for those types of use cases. Yep. So can you talk a little bit about how people are using Dataprep for cloud onboarding, data onboarding?
Yeah, so data onboarding, when you're dealing with like data that is slightly, that is similar in content, but not quite of the right structure. So with Dataprep, what you can do is you can easily reorder and restructure that data to match what you expected standards. And then from there, as you saw with the date time example, you can actually standardize formats fairly easily. If you think about it, that was actually, standardizing date time in particular is hard. So we made that fairly easy through Dataprep.
Oh, that's great. And the customer dilemma, a lot of people have a lot of meetings defining what is a customer, what are the attributes from all these different sources, CRM, ERP. So it looks like in terms of data onboarding, or if you're doing M&A activities, this is a really great tool to do that type of exploration. Yeah, oh, great. And I think you mentioned when you were going through the demo that you had the ability to support different types of file formats. So can you talk a little bit about how you deal with compressed files? So is a source file maybe compressed?
Yeah. So mentioned that Dataprep supports CSV, JSON, Excel files, but it also supports compression like gzip and bzip. So as that data is stored already in Google Cloud Storage, able to read that in fairly easily.
Oh, excellent. Okay, and with Trifacta, you have, and you're marrying what you have put in place for Dataprep with your experience in those tools, and that's married to our Google Cloud infrastructure. Right. And so can you talk a little bit about Trifacta and maybe expertise or professional services when it comes to getting people set up and getting started and trained?
Yeah, so as mentioned, so we've, Trifacta is just focused on data preparation and making sure users are successful. So as part of that, not only do we have services options where we can come in and do some initial onboarding and training on how you use the tool, but we also have a lot of free resources, free resources in the form of tutorials, blogs, documentation. So all that's available both in the Dataprep documentation as well as from Trifacta itself.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, so it sounds like you have everything available. So if people want to learn more about Cloud Dataprep, they can go directly to cloud.google.com/dataprep and learn a lot more.
It looks like there was one additional question, a follow-up about the pricing. So just a question saying, is the pricing variable? Yeah, so just so we're clear, the pricing is based on the number of compute resources that you use. So whilst a fixed price for the compute resource, it varies based on the number of resources. So if it's taking more hours, more compute hours to execute a job, therefore the price will go up. It's just a price on per hour type of calculation. Hopefully that helped.
Okay, great. Yes, well, stay tuned for our next session. 3 reasons why you should run enterprise workloads on GKE. And thanks, Sean, for coming here today. This has been really informative. And I know I'm going to start doing some additional work on my data prep project to explore a lot of data without actually doing a lot of coding. So the number of hours you've saved with that, I think we all appreciate that. Those of us who have gone through those those sessions in the war rooms and the meetings. So great.
Yeah, great. I was happy to be here. Pleasure to be here.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.